Good morning everyone, and thanks very much for joining us on the latest Lawshare Q&A. I'm delighted to be joined this morning by Joanne Brine, partner and the head of our travel litigation department. Hi Jo, thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Excellent.
Obviously as we enter summer, we've had some amazing temperatures here in the UK. A lot of people will be looking to go abroad, so I thought it would be great to have a sit down and talk about obviously withdrawal from the EU, travel litigation, and I know a number of our members will deal with personal injury work but perhaps don't have the specialist expertise that we've got here in JMW. So Jo, if I don't mind, if I can start with a few questions for you, please.
Absolutely.
Great. So on that topic, since the withdrawal from the EU, how has that affected the legal framework in cross-border personal injury law?
So yeah, our departure from the EU has been quite a dramatic change for personal injury lawyers specialising in this area. The regulation that we used to rely on commonly to argue that the English courts had jurisdiction when there'd been an accident in another EU country has gone. It's no longer possible for us to rely on that. So we have to consider the new framework and consider each case carefully really to see whether we can bring that claim for that injured client in the courts of England and Wales, or whether we need to seek specialist advice from a lawyer in another jurisdiction.
Okay, so will that result in you and your team having to rely on common law to establish whether a client can pursue a compensation claim in the courts of England and Wales?
Yes, that's right. So for any new cases now, we have to go back to the old common law rules to establish whether we'll be able to get permission to serve out of the jurisdiction, and then whether we'll be able to show that England or Wales is the appropriate forum to bring that case. It's more legally challenging, more complex. We're lucky to have a network, a well-established network of reliable EU lawyers that we can call on for advice. We need to understand the rules for service in that particular country. We need to seek permission from the court by way of application for permission to serve out of the jurisdiction. And for many of the EU countries then we have to incur the costs of having the proceedings translated into the local language. So it makes it a more time-consuming, more complex and costly process for us to access justice for those clients.
Okay. I've heard this phrase being used a bit, but I have to confess it's not something I know a huge amount about. But can you tell us a little bit about the Lugano Convention, and do you see the UK joining it?
Yeah, sure. So the Lugano Convention is about judicial cooperation and recognition of judgments. The UK had asked to join the Lugano Convention upon leaving the EU, and we hoped it was going to be possible. It would be a benefit for our clients because it would give more certainty. But at the moment the position's really uncertain. I think it's really more of a political issue at the moment. We hope it will happen. There's some lobbying to try and see if we can help to make sure it does, but we really don't know at the moment, unfortunately.
So if a client's injured in a road traffic collision in Europe, does the Rome II regulation continue to apply to determine which law is applicable?
Yeah, so even though we've left the EU, the Rome II regulation does still applies, and that decides, like you say, what law applies to that case. It's very fact specific. Generally, it is often the case that the law that applies is where the accident occurred. So if you're injured in a car accident in Spain, Spanish law may apply. If you're a cyclist in France, it may be French law. But there's certain exceptions, so I think it's important that people get specialist advice from the outset to assess the circumstances to determine what law is likely to apply. And in some cases the EU laws might be more favourable, in other cases English law is more favourable, but it's a careful analysis for each individual client.
And determining it on a sort of case-by-case basis. Right,
yeah.
Okay. And have the package travel and link travel regulations survived Brexit?
The good news for our clients is yes, they have. So if you're on a package holiday and you've sustained an injury, maybe in the hotel or on the transfer bus, you can still pursue the tour operator in the English courts, which is a real advantage in terms of the certainty of being able to rely on English law, English court timetabling. There is still the issue of local standards. The local standards apply to the circumstances, and therefore we rely heavily on local standards experts to ensure we can provide the right evidence to the court. So there's still more complicated cases than a general PI case with the additional expense of local standards evidence, and we have to have the ability to find a reliable expert in that jurisdiction. And again, we're lucky to have a network of established people that we can contact to make sure we've got the right advice.
And what reassurance does the ATOL Scheme provide?
The ATOL scheme does give some reassurance if a tour operator ceases trading or goes bust. So if you get to go on holiday, at least you'll get your money back. And if you're on holiday when the worst happens and a business collapses, it'll help you to be repatriated back home. It's not a complete cover, and there's certain exclusions, and it doesn't necessarily apply if it's flight-only bookings. So I think the important things to do if you're looking at booking a trip is to check whether the tour operator is under the ATOL scheme.
Right, okay, and look at what other insurances and
are
available.
Yeah,
other
we'd always say
products and
to
stuff.
think carefully and make sure you've got adequate insurance, because people go on holiday not expecting the worst to happen, but the unfortunate side of our job is that we see it happens when you least expect it.
Of course. Well, and probably a good note to finish on. So to any of our members that are going away, I hope you have a fantastic time without incident, without injury, and avoid perhaps any major delays at airports and some of the things we've seen down at Dover. But thanks very much for tuning in. If you do have any questions, you know the email address, lawshare@jmw.co.uk, and of course any clients needing advice or assistance with an injury abroad, please do get in touch with Joe and the team. They'd be more than happy to help. So Joe, thanks again.
Thanks very much.